Some of our ancient civilizations might have been originated by people who came here from other planets. The science of space navigation forgotten by their descendants, but the tradition of the celestial advent persisting in their written and oral traditions. That such traditions did persist was beyond dispute. Whence came these traditions that were not confined to related civilizations, but were preserved by widely separated peoples? It was with this background that I began my first novel in 1921, a tale of adventures on the planet Venus. I called it Grandin of Terra, but the name was later changed to the Planet of Peril. My hero reached Venus by the simple, try-it, expedient of exchanging bodies with a young man on that planet who was his physical twin. He reported his adventures on Venus to an earthly scientist, Dr. Morgan, by telepathy. Kline then began to construct his solar system logically, explaining any anomalies by reports of earlier wars between the various inhabitants of Earth, the Moon, Mars, and Venus. The Moon's craters, for instance, were evidence of a terrible, almost suicidal war between what became Earth's satellite and the people of Mars. So he built an impressive history of the ancient interplanetary civilizations. While Burroughs might have been Kline's inspiration, it was obvious to Tarzan's creator that Kline was paying him the greatest compliment of taking his techniques and making something extra of them. Rumors of the feud I mentioned were manufactured and played upon by the enthusiastic but wildly unreliable and sensational Sam Moskowitz, who wrote many an unlikely account of science fiction, fantasy, and the genre's writers so that their biographies often threatened to overshadow the stories they created. Sam was certainly no stranger to hyperbole, nor did he mind presenting rumor as fact. Kline's own reminiscences were altogether more prosaic and credible. There were men in various stages of evolutionary development, Kline went on, men without eyes living in lightless caverns, monkey men swinging through the branches and lianas of fern forests, blood-sucking batmen, gigantic termites of tremendous mental development. There were mighty empires with strange and terrible weapons, and airships which flew at tremendous speed, mechanisms which amplify the power of mind over matter. Kline loved creating his stories, and where he did base them on experience, it was of Florida and the Everglades, as you will read here. He was no penny-a-word hack. I have said it elsewhere, but the truism is worth repeating. There was no such thing as a pulp writer. There were only writers who appeared in the pulps, frequently because the more respectable mainstream magazines were slow to recognize their talents. A rather careful writer, though he could pull out the stops to help his friends at weird tales, Kline produced a relatively small body of work, some of it in the tradition of Poe or Lovecraft, most of it published in Weird Tales or Argosy. This relative paucity of output, as well as his frank admiration of his peers, could explain why he came to augment his own earnings by representing other, mainly fantastic writers. Even when I was editing magazines in the early 1960s, I would still occasionally receive manuscripts stamped with the name and address of his agency, and he represented writers of considerable quality, the cream of their generation, giving further testament to his taste and discrimination. By all accounts, he was an honest, reliable, and effective agent, while his best work was recognized in his lifetime. William Bolitho, the idiosyncratic literary author of books such as 12 Against the Gods, thought Kline an outstanding writer of imaginative fiction, whom I'm sure I would rather read than many fashionable novelists. Kline died relatively young, and it is probably fair to say that the greater part of his work might easily have died with him. Had it not been for the revival of interest in fantastic fiction, especially that of Burroughs and Howard, he might never have been reprinted. His stories lack all the usual characteristics of Burroughs imitators or, for that matter, Howard pastichers. He was, for one thing, a meticulous researcher. His cosmology was consistent. His earthly settings were immediately recognizable, and it is a mistake to imagine him a mere aper of Burroughs's more obvious literary methods. Some people have suggested that Howard's rather unsatisfactory short novel, Almeric, was ghosted by Kline, but anyone who knows his work would understand that Kline would never have left a manuscript in such bad shape and could as easily have sold it to Weird Tales under his own name. He was a hard-working member of the editorial board. In his day, Kline was certainly as valued a contributor as Howard. His serials, like Jan of the Jungle, had pulled the magazine out of a declining circulation more than once, and it was well known what his name could do to improve sales. I think it's fair to say that his plots were influenced as much by the movie adventures of Douglas Fairbanks Sr. and Rudolph Valentino, or the glorious historical tales of Raphael Sabatini, as by John Carter or Tarzan. Kline